As we move forward in this new normal with COVID-19, we're having our daily movements, who we come into contact with, and even our temperatures tracked.
But at what point does that go too far? What is the line between privacy and safety? Contact 7 investigator Jennifer Kovaleski helps answer that question in tonight's 360 report.
These days, everywhere we go, everywhere we drive,
I'm not opposed to it.
and even while we shop,
I think it's over the line.
it seems someone is watching.
We've sold our souls to Google.
After the terrorist attacks on 9/11, we gave up privacy for security. But will we make the same trade-off after COVID-19? Let's uncode this privacy debate and go 360 for multiple perspectives on where we go from here.
We've been willing to give up a certain amount of personal information for safety.
Starting with a data security expert.
And of course, then the virus puts a whole new spin on that.
Steve Beatty says the novel coronavirus has turned our nation's privacy debate on its head, and we're giving up more data than ever before. Data on where we've been, who we've been in contact with, and even our temperatures.
There are lots of things that we have historically, again, considered sensitive, considered private, and they no longer are.
He questions, when does it stop?
The cell phone providers, the Googles of the world, have just provided these data without essentially what we call informed consent.
Beatty points to the Patriot Act, which was put in place after 9/11. The act gave the government the power to increase surveillance on suspected terrorists, but it came with civilian oversight and an end date. With COVID-19, he says we never signed up for our data to be used this way, and there is no end date.
And how long are we comfortable with that going on? Is it when the vaccine is here?
Now, to be fair, the cell phone data the government is using, advertisers have been using for years to track our spending habits or what we like to click on. But it's never been used in this way, to track how well people are staying at home amid a global pandemic.
It's very important. It really gives us a good sense for potential risks in the population.
Which brings us to CU Assistant Professor Jude Bayham. He led an expert research team who examined Coloradans' movement patterns using cell phone data.
I mean, this is a unique time. This is the first time I think we've had data.
In fact, they published a recent report about it.
Number of visits that devices make to certain locations like restaurants or retail, things like that.
Bayham says the group analyzed aggregate, anonymous cell phone data from a company called SafeGraph. The data came from people who had location services on their phones turned on.
The individual users of certain apps allowing the phone to access that information.
A function you can turn off. A quick scan of this phone shows a map of frequent locations. It can even identify where you work and where you live. This is the data the government is using to track people's movements with COVID-19.
What is the line between privacy and safety?
Certainly a reasonable concern. Most of our data comes from SafeGraph. You can go to their website and opt out of their data collection.
When do we stop using this data to track where people are going? When is there a stopping point?
Once the pandemic is declared over, I think we will not use this anymore for this purpose.
Well, there's always the slippery slope.
Aurora City Councilwoman Francois Bergan sees the need for the data.
So that, that our scientists and our medical professions can make good decisions.
But also sees the need to make sure we don't cross the line.
We need to be careful that we are not too invasive in terms of people's privacy, because where does that lead you?
No big surprise here. But everyday Coloradans have mixed opinions on being tracked for COVID-19.
I think that the privacy is important, but the safety of the other humans probably would need to take precedence.
Well, Diane Mitchell is not opposed to the idea.
Everyone just can't do what they want when we have a pandemic crisis that involves help.
The answer is very simply, it's a balancing act.
Steve Perry calls the cell phone tracking over the line.
I think they could do it otherwise. I'm struggling with the idea of privacy.
Joe Estes is that guy who said we've sold our souls to Google.
I'm afraid society's been changed forever.
What everyone can agree on is that COVID-19 is creating a new debate around privacy, one we are still struggling to figure out as a society. I'm Contact 7 investigator Jennifer Kovaleski.
We want to hear your thoughts. Has this gone too far, or is this just what's needed right now, given the circumstance? Please email us your thoughts, 360@thedenverchannel.com.